There's Some Sky in This Pie by Joan Aiken. There was an old man and an old woman, and they lived in a very cold country. One winter day the old man said to the old woman, "My dear, it is so cold. I should like it very much if you would make a good hot apple pie." And the old woman said, "Yes, my dear, I will make an apple pie." So she took sugar, and she took spices, and she took apples, and she put them in a pie dish. Then she took flour, and she took fat, and she took water, and she began to make a pastry to cover the pie. First she rubbed the fat into the flour, then she made it into a lump with a little water. Then she took a roller and began to roll out the pastry. While she was doing this, the old man said, "Look out of the window, my dear. See, it is beginning to snow." And the old woman looked out of the window at the snow coming down so fast out of the white sky. Then she went on rolling the pastry. But what do you think happened? A little corner of the sky that she had been looking at got caught in the pastry, and that little bit of sky was pulled under the roller, just the way a shirt is pulled into a wringer. So when the old woman rolled her pastry flat and put it into the pie dish, there was a piece of sky in it. But the old woman did not know this. She put the pie in the oven, and soon it began to smell very good. "Is it dinner time yet?" said the old man. "Soon," said the old woman. She put spoons and forks and plates on the table. "Is it dinner time now?" said the old man. "Yes," said the old woman, and she opened the oven door. But what do you think? That pie was so light, because of the bit of sky in it, that it floated out of the oven right across the room. "Stop it! Stop it!" cried the old woman. She made a grab, and he made a grab, but the pie floated out of the door, and they ran after it into the garden. "Jump on it!" cried the old man. So he jumped on it, and she jumped on it, but the pie was so light that it carried them up into the air, through the snowflakes falling out of the white sky. The little black and white cat Whiskey was on the apple tree, looking at the snow. "Stop us! Stop us!" they called to Whiskey. So he jumped on the pie, but he was too light to stop it, and still it went on floating through the falling snow. They went higher and higher. The birds called to them, "Old woman, old man, little cat, so high, sailing along on your apple pie, why are you floating across the sky?" And the old woman answered, "Because we can't stop, that's the reason why." They went on till they came to a plane that had run out of fuel. So there it was, stuck in the middle of the sky. And the airman was inside, and he was very cold. He called out, "Old woman, old man, little cat, so high, sailing along on your apple pie, why are you floating across the sky?" And the old woman answered, "Because we can't stop, that's the reason why." "May I come with you?" called the airman. "Yes, of course you may." So he jumped on the pie and went floating along with them. They went a little farther, and they saw a duck who had forgotten how to fly. There it was in the middle of a cloud, and the duck called, "Old woman, old man, little cat, and airman so high, sailing along on your apple pie, why are you floating across the sky?" And the old woman answered, "Because we can't stop, that's the reason why." "May I come with you?" "Yes, of course you may." So the duck jumped on the pie and went floating along with them. They went a little farther, and they passed a tall mountain. On the tip-top of the mountain was a mountain goat who had forgotten the way down. So he called to them, "Old woman, old man, little cat, and airman, and duck so high, sailing along on your apple pie, why are you floating across the sky?" And the old woman answered, "Because we can't stop, that's the reason why." May I come with you?" "Yes, of course you may." So the goat jumped on the pie too. Then they went a little farther, and they came to a big city with high, high buildings. And on top of one of the buildings was a sad, cross, homesick elephant, looking sadly and crossly at the snow. She called to them, "Old woman, old man, little cat, and airman, and duck, and goat so high, sailing along on your apple pie, why are you floating across the sky?" And the old woman answered, "Because we can't stop, that's the reason why." "Your pie smells so warm and spicy, it makes me think of my homeland," said the elephant. "May I come with you?" "Yes, of course you may." So the elephant jumped on the pie and went floating along. But the elephant was so heavy that she made the pie tip to one side. Now as they floated on, by and by they left the cold and the snow behind, and came to where it was warm. Down below was the blue, blue sea, and in the blue sea there were many little islands with white sand and green trees. By this time the pie was beginning to cool off, and as it cooled it went down and down. "Let us land on one of these lovely islands," said the old man. "They have white sand and green trees and ever so many flowers." "Yes, let us," said the old woman, and Whiskey the cat, and the duck, and the mountain goat, and the airman, and the elephant. But the people on the island saw them coming and put up a sign that said, "No parking for pies." So they went a little farther, and they came to another island. But the people on that island also put up a sign that said, "No parking for pies." "Oh dear," said the old woman, "will no one let us land?" By this time the pie was so cool that it sank down on the sea. "Now we are right," said the old man. "Our own pie makes a very fine island." "There are no trees," said the old woman. "There are no flowers. And what shall we eat and what shall we drink?" But the sun was so warm that fine apple trees soon grew up, with green leaves and pink flowers and red apples. And the mountain goat gave them milk, and the duck gave them eggs, and Whiskey the cat caught fish in the sea. And the elephant picked apples for them off the trees with her trunk. So they lived happily on the island and never went home again. And all this happened because the old woman baked a bit of sky in her pie.